Imagine that you survived. You stepped into the arena where people screamed your name, where the sand was warm with blood, where a single mistake meant the end. You survived. That alone already feels like victory. But it isn't. It is an error. A statistical anomaly inside a system designed to consume bodies. The crowd roars. You stand still. You do not look up. You already know this moment is not about you. It is about entertainment. A hand rises. A decision is made. You will live. And this is where the real danger begins. Because Rome did not always kill. Often, Rome rewarded. And reward was more dangerous than death. Rome understood something deeply human. Fear breaks people quickly. Hope breaks them slowly. And permanently. When a gladiator was rewarded, he was not given freedom. He was given a taste of life. Just enough to crave it. Wine that burns the throat. Food that makes the body heavy again. A touch that reminds you that you are still human and not just meat in the sand. Rome did not break gladiators with pain alone. It broke them with anticipation. Modern people believe in a simple equation. Risk should be rewarded. Effort should lead to justice. Rome did not believe this. Rome believed in efficiency. It never rewarded bravery. It rewarded usefulness. Every surviving gladiator was an asset. Every popular gladiator was an investment. An investment had to be preserved, repaired, and sent back into circulation. That is why, after a fight, a gladiator was sometimes led past the crowd instead of being dragged into darkness. The crowd saw this and believed Rome was fair. But there was no fairness here. There was accounting. Yes, gladiators were paid. Sometimes generously. The sums looked obscene compared to the poverty of ordinary people. The crowd envied them. Other slaves dreamed of the arena. And that was the point. Because gladiator money was money without an exit. You could spend it. You could count it. You could feel its weight. But you could not leave. Every purse of coins whispered the same thing. You are almost alive. Take one more step. Fight once more. And the gladiator began to count not days, but appearances. How many more times do I need to survive before I can live? Rome loved this question. Because it had no answer. Over time, money stopped being the goal. It became proof. Proof of status. The gladiator no longer compared himself to slaves. He compared himself to other gladiators. Who earned more? Who was known? Who was cheered louder? This is where Rome tightened control. Distinction. Clothing. Jewelry. Privilege. The right to sit higher than others. The right to speak when others stayed silent. This was stronger than chains. Chains can be hated. Status cannot. Status is defended. The gladiator stopped being just a body. He became a figure. And the moment a man believes he is a figure, he becomes terrified of falling. Rome cultivated that fear carefully. It did not threaten. It demonstrated. Today you are celebrated. Tomorrow you are forgotten. And this worked better than any whip. Women were part of the system. Not as romance. As mechanism. Gladiators were desired. Their names were scratched into walls. Their images carried as charms. Not because they were noble heroes, but because the arena turned them into symbols of danger and death. Forbidden and thrilling. Rome saw this and allowed it. A woman beside a gladiator created the illusion of a normal life. Laughter. Warmth. A body next to yours in the dark. A night without screaming crowds. But this was rarely love. It was function. Because a man who has someone waiting becomes controllable. he stops fearing death. He starts fearing loss. Rome understood this well. A man with nothing to lose is dangerous. A man with attachments obeys. The deeper the attachment, the tighter the grip. Gladiators who experienced affection became cautious. Careful. They fought not to die, but to return. And that was exactly what Rome wanted. The most dangerous reward was not gold. Not women. Not applause. It was permission to leave the walls. Sometimes a gladiator was allowed to walk the city. Just walk. Breathe. See ordinary people living ordinary lives. These hours were more destructive than chains. Because the gladiator saw a world that could be his. And then he was brought back. Knowing the only path to that world ran once again through the sand. Rome was careful with this privilege. It never gave it too often. Just enough to make the contrast unbearable. Freedom was shown, then removed. Not as punishment. As motivation. Rome took care of gladiators. That is why it worked. They were fed well. Treated by physicians. Bathed. Massaged. Given rest. From the outside, it looked humane. But it was maintenance. The body had to recover. The mind had to stabilize. Fear had to dull. So the spectacle could continue. Even rest was violence. Just quiet violence. Over time, something changed inside the gladiator. He stopped fearing death. He started fearing regression. Loss of comfort. Loss of recognition. Loss of access. Loss of the life he was allowed to touch but never own. He began to protect the system that consumed him. That was Rome's final victory. Because at that point, the gladiator no longer dreamed of freedom. He dreamed of the next appearance. Sometimes Rome did release gladiators. It handed them a symbol of freedom. Permission to leave. But even then, the system often won. Many stayed near the arena. Became trainers. Guards. Men who taught others how to survive correctly. Because outside the system, they were nothing. Rome did not hold them with chains. It held them with habit. Rome was not cruel for pleasure. It was cruel for efficiency. It learned that fear destroys quickly, but hope reshapes a person forever. Gladiators were given life and measured portions. Just enough to want more. Each return to the arena was not heroism. It was payment. Payment for another sip of life. Rome did not ask gladiators to love the arena. It taught them to need it.